Before it was reality, the moon landing was just a dream. A wide-eyed idea that hardly anyone thought could come true.
3, 2, 1.
Until it did.
That's one small step for man.
There was plenty of room for doubt along the way.
Where we are strong and where we are not.
But when a dream is audacious enough,
We choose to go to the moon.
nothing can vanquish it.
They hold the key to our future on Earth.
50 years later, we're embarking on the next great mission, led by Aquanaut Fabien Cousteau. A mission so daunting, it has forced many explorers to stand down. Inspired by their attempts, these brave men and women are picking up the torch. Meet the Aquanauts, who dream to live and work deep below the ocean's surface. This is our generation's moon landing. This is Proteus, the world's most advanced underwater station to accelerate the most pressing oceanic research. Together, we'll venture deeper into the place where life began, and the place that has the potential to save life as we know it. Because the research and knowledge that we will uncover down here will forever change the way generations of humans live up here. Let's make history while saving the future. Let's make history with Proteus.
Okay. Hopefully that sets the stage a little bit, and let's start our presentation. Okay, great. Fabien, it's all yours. Take it away.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. I'm a little jealous that Lisa, our intrepid CEO, got a chance to have fun with you last night. It sounds like it was a great time. Hopefully you all got a chance to talk to her. If not, I encourage you to do so at some point during the schedule today. It's a pleasure to be amongst all of you, at least virtually. I still have my second cup of coffee here, so please bear with me. The video basically frames the Project Proteus fairly well. But that said, I can't emphasize enough that we are quite literally building the International Space Station of the Ocean, the most advanced research, education, and discovery center in our ocean in 2025 and beyond. Now, with that said, maybe I should take a step back and explain a little bit about why we got here and who I am, what the journey was to get to building such a ambitious project, and what the reasons are both on a philanthropic level as well as a business level, so that we can get a better framework for why such a platform is the missing tool in the toolbox of ocean exploration, as well as so desperately needed in today's world. That said, I see a blank screen, so maybe we can go to slide number 3.
Okay,
The simplest way, I know we have very limited time, so the simplest way I can frame it is I was born and grew up in a family where this is really the mantra, is that people protect what they love what they understand, and they understand what they're taught. Probably the best piece of advice and inheritance I ever got from my grandfather. But before I go a little bit deeper into that, I also want to give a tipping of the hat to some of the other family members who really made my grandfather's career such a success, most notably my grandmother, Simone. Most of you probably have never heard of her, but she was the true captain of Calypso, the famed ship that went around the world 13 times, the old World War II minesweeper, which was our home for most of my youth, and the home to our extended family, of course, all the crew members of Calypso, some of which you may have seen in the old documentary films. The basis for my growing up is I have been scuba diving since I was 4. Lisa had mentioned the few hours that I spent underwater. I've been on expeditions since I was 7 and leading dozens and dozens of expeditions in some of the farthest regions of the world. And that was really my education growing up. Yes, I went to college and all that, but the true essence of understanding the underpinnings of what makes us exist, thrive, and so successful as a species, both culturally and physiologically, gave a real appreciation for what ocean means to us. This is, after all, a little oasis in space. And the only reason we exist is that the ocean is our life support system. It is what gives us everything that we love, that we cherish, and that we depend on in our everyday lives, each and every one of us. For example, 65 to 70% of the oxygen that you breathe every single day is thanks to the ocean. Now, how do we value these sorts of things? I don't know. We are looking into that, but let's not go too deep into this because this is a short presentation. Can we go to the next slide? I believe that's slide number 4. Most recently, I had the privilege of leading my team to the world's only remaining undersea marine laboratory called Aquarius. Some of you may be familiar with this because it is in your own aquatic backyard. Aquarius is a glorious 400 internal square feet at the bottom of the sea. This year, I think it is 36 years old, so it's certainly quite venerable. But a few years back, we got a chance to live and work from that undersea station for 31 days, a full lunar cycle. And that gave us a real unique perspective and appreciation for this kind of platform and what that can offer to the world, to us, to a better perspective of the human-ocean connection. Within that 31 days, because of something so unique that it gives us, this platform, the luxury of time at the bottom of the sea. Any of you who have gone scuba diving may appreciate the frustration that I have every time I scuba dive, which is just when things start getting interesting, it's time to come back to the surface. And so an underwater habitat where you live in saturation at depth gives you unprecedented access to the undersea world. And within that 31 days, we were able to do over 3 years worth of scientific experiments, everything from hydrocarbon pollution, climate change related issues, to biodiversity, to the value of certain assets that we have underwater. 12 research papers came out of it. Just as importantly, we were able to reach over 100,000 students live from the bottom of the sea, first time ever in my career anyway, that we were able to reach kids in China, in North America, in South America, even in the Antarctic. It was a pretty amazing experience to be able to Skype in the classroom, to be able to talk to astronauts from the bottom of the sea, and really connect the dots between outer and inner space exploration. The result, of course, without even a specific media strategy, was over 34 billion unique media impressions. Anyone who's in the media world can appreciate the value of that. It's hundreds of millions of dollars of press. And all of that said, it was really the experiment, right? Do people still care about the ocean? And what can we do to highlight the value of ocean exploration? We've explored less than 5% of our ocean world to date, so we have a lot left to explore. It is quite literally the Pandora's box waiting for us to open and find all the discoveries that we need to address some of the challenges that we have today and some of the opportunities that we have. Next slide, please. Now, you living in Florida may be very well aware of extreme weather, especially, unfortunately, in the negative sense, most highlighted with Ian and the hundreds of billions of dollars of damage it's done up and down the East Coast, especially in low-lying areas such as the state of Florida, where the highest point is 345 feet. The median elevation is somewhere around 100 feet. And the most densely populated areas of Florida, of course, on the coastline, that beautiful, gorgeous coastline that you have, at no higher than about 6 feet from the tide line. So one can imagine that with the developments most recently with lack of land near shore, unfortunate destruction of mangroves and coral reefs, which are the buffer zones to some of these extreme weather conditions, and the very real need to protect not only a property, but also life. We have a lot of things to learn about Mother Nature and the ocean as it pertains to us and our well-being on land. Some of these are listed right here on this particular slide. Now, this is not meant to be a story of depression on a Sunday morning, so I'll let you have a second cup of coffee before we even get into anything like that. But I will say, and we can go to the next slide, that the time is now. And I'm not kidding about this. We've heard about these things recently in news media, and no, these are not exaggerations. I know that sometimes we can get sick and fed up of the bad news that's out there. We have decades of catching up to do on the information of our relationship with what's happening on the planet, because we've by and large ignored it, either through plain ignorance of not knowing what's beneath the blue veneer, or just not wanting to address some of the issues that have been facing us and that my grandfather's been talking about since the 1960s, and many other people. So we have an opportunity. We have a huge opportunity to learn more about the ocean world, to leverage that knowledge in all sorts of fields. And I will say that we are missing a huge opportunity in not building and leveraging the most valuable tool that's missing in the toolbox, the hammer or the screwdriver, if you will, which is building underwater research stations so that we can better monitor and explore and discover all sorts of assets that have been hidden to us because of our land-based relationship. Now, accelerating time is probably the most valuable asset. And I'm a big proponent, of course, of all the other ways we explore the ocean, diving, boats, submarines, AUVs, autonomous vehicles, ROVs, remotely operated vehicles. But there's no substitute for that human interaction on our final frontier, whether it's in coordination with technology or whether it's more traditional science and exploration or storytelling. All those things are extraordinarily valuable assets to leverage that 95% that we have still yet to discover. And so with that, I postulate that Proteus there we go. Perfect. Proteus is an ideal platform to fill that gap and to leverage the networking opportunities for all these various tools that we're currently using to be able to fill the gap necessary to look at mid and long-term strategies to dive into the amazing opportunities in biochem, biotechnologies, robotics, human physiology, and so on and so forth, that this kind of platform offers us. And the only way we can do this is building a state-of-the-art, modular, continually upgradable, so future-looking underwater research station from which we can deploy 12 to 18 people in various parts of the world to have wet and dry labs that are would be the epitome of anything on land. And of course, having a underwater broadcast studio that is capable of Hollywood-style productions to engage today's modern ways of reaching people around the world, whether it's on these devices or on traditional media. Now, with that said, we're concentrating, although we have a lot of opportunities, we're concentrating on four main pillars: food systems, which are pivotal and hugely important to feeding the world in a way that is in equitable balance with nature, because right now we are going bankrupt. We have exploited over 60% and wiped out over 60% of our world's wild fish stocks. That's a huge issue. So with that said, there are opportunities in ways to farm the ocean the way we have on land for over 10,000 years, to be able to look at systems where we go further down the food web and are able to provide nutrition in ways that are more in balance with nature, that will give us the opportunity to actually be net positive and help nature restore itself. There's health and medicine, which is an enormous opportunity. And I know everyone's concentrated on what's in the forests on land, and that's fantastic. But the ocean is the chemical soup from which all life has been born. And we have vastly ignored the opportunities in medicines and biochem. I can highlight a few opportunities that have happened recently and FDA approved. For example, Prialt, which is a pain mitigator that was extracted from the venom of a cone snail, the most venomous animal on the planet, that is now 1,000 times more powerful than morphine without any of the side effects. That chemical composition was sold to a large pharma company for over $38 million. And that's just one chemical composition in the billions and billions of chemical chains in the ocean that we haven't even tapped into. There are other opportunities that have arisen recently in chemotherapy with deep water corals and so on and so forth. I know we don't have time to dive too deep into that, but that's just to highlight a few of the these things that have been eluding us up until now. The ocean space innovation. So, you know, as we've all seen, space has become a hot commodity for tourism and for colonization. And of course, Proteus is a perfect analog to train astronauts before they go into space, such as the NEMO missions have done in the past with Aquarius. Proteus gives us the opportunity to look forward to entire colonies and to be able to really leverage and train people before they go into the extremes of space where there is no bailout and they need to be prepared for everything. And so with that, you know, the kaleidoscope you see in front of you just shows how astronauts repairing things underwater is training and has been happening on that. Unmanned vehicles give us an opportunity to reach out into kind of this sensory array underwater to really look at climate change related issues, dissolved microplastics, all these things that pertain to all sorts of industries here on land. And of course, looking at the Navy and security, and all those things are also part of this. If we could go to the next slide, I'm trying to talk as quickly as I can. This is normally, you know, an hour to an hour and a half. We're trying to squeeze it into 20 minutes. We've garnered a lot of attention, whether we tried to or not, and have had really the blessing of having partners, very strong partners in the Navy, U.S. Navy, excuse me, NOAA, National Oceanic and Administration, which is responsible actually for a lot of our weather data, as well as many other things. And then you can see on the page here a lot of other partnerships. There are so many, actually, they're not all listed on here, and some that are in the process of signing MOUs with us to further the project and execute on it very soon. Next slide, please. We're actually in our, is it our third year, Lisa? It's 2.5 years now of planning, and we're just getting started. So we've garnered a lot of attention, to over 10 billion media impressions from all these popular outlets right here, and many more to come. We're trying to temper this so that we can actually concentrate on bending metal and installing Proteus. Next slide, please. And our first underwater research station is in our favorite jurisdiction of Curacao. If you don't know where Curacao is, it's part of the ABC, what used to be called the ABC Islands. It's the middle island. There's Aruba on one side and Bonaire on the other. Curacao has the infrastructure necessary, has the opportunity on land, and most importantly, it has one of the last two accruing coral reefs in the entire Caribbean, the other one being in Cuba. So we have a very unique opportunity working, having an MOU with the government, working with entities, local entities such as Carmabi to be installed in a marine park and in a rich aquatic environment to be able to leverage those opportunities. I also want to highlight something which I didn't mention before. This is a very different approach on underwater exploration, most of which have been done through nonprofit means or universities and small entities and other government entities or non-government entities like Scripps, Woods Hole, etc. This is a social good enterprise. So, first and foremost, of course, science and education are kind of the mantra or philosophy. But since it is a for-profit entity, we're able to leverage this opportunity in ways that will benefit the private sector and commercial sector, as well as the public at large. Next slide, please. So Proteus, the first one, of course, as I mentioned, will be in Curacao. You can see on this map here. But we have the intention of not stopping there, but creating a network of strategically placed underwater research stations so that we can have a network that will be able to be leveraged and give us a much better opportunity to work with other partnerships. And we have actually some partnerships already with land and sea-based entities so that we can have a better finger on the pulse of oceanic health and to be able to live with the ocean rather than on it. It needs no conclusion really here. I mean, there's no planet B. And as much as I'm a huge proponent of space exploration and really interested in this colonization aspect, as long as there's a two-way ticket, this unique little oasis in space is our natural resource bank account. It is our life support system. It is our home. Ask any astronaut that goes into space what they look at the most. It's this little blue orb that represents the entirety of everything that we know, that we love, that we cherish, and all life that we've discovered. So as much as I'd love to explore the oceans of Mars, the ocean on this planet is the most unique asset in the known universe. And it stands to reason that we should start learning more about it so that we can leverage the opportunities and, of course, give back to our future generations the things that we've taken for granted. And that's it. That's all I have to say. I'd love to open it for Q&A if there's anyone that has questions, of course, down the road. If you have any more questions or want to talk more about these various aspects and opportunities and curiosities in the ocean world, Lisa Maricino is right there with you, and hopefully you all will enjoy your beautiful Sunday in lovely Florida. And thank you very much for your time.
Yes.
So thank you, Fabien, for some lessons before. We're very interactive here at 361. So questions, I have one. Which is that based on all of their experience and perspectives and the initial research findings from your first 21 days and beyond, what do you think will be one of the biggest beneficiaries? Let's say fast forward, we have 5 projects around the world, and that deep research, which is so important. What do you think? Or one of the things that could happen, that you probably have a sense of. You may not have proven that something you think is going to be really game changing the world.
Okay, I've a hard time understanding. What are the biggest leverage points or beneficiaries of Proteus, a network of Proteus habitats? Is that basically the question? Can someone talk to the laptop or whatever it is that you have? Because there's a big echo in there.
Yes.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, the question is who are the biggest beneficiaries? So aside from, of course, just having a better general overall knowledge of the ocean, which is all lovely and wonderful, but not necessarily quantifiable in dollars and cents, I would say the pharma, because everything that we analyze underwater has a potential. The hospitality industry, of course, tourism and all that, but that's pretty easy to say. I would say for national security, being able to monitor what's hidden, both things like unexploded ordnances or plumes, toxic plumes, or waves of microplastics. Let's not forget that human health is a huge industry. The media industries as well. If we look at Hollywood and the value of each and every one of those Hollywood films and documentaries, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars per special. The list goes on and on. The space analog is a really interesting one because the space industry has been spending about 1,000 times more for space exploration preparation than ocean. So if you imagine being able to train a portion of these upcoming astronauts, that's certainly another asset, another financial asset, or pillar, if you will. The list in terms of science, that really depends on what's discovered and what the target is, but basically the sky's the limit there. I think I think that slide pretty much covered the four main topics, but there's a lot of ancillary. So let me give you a page out of Mission 31. Maybe that's an easier one. We had, and mind you, this is some years ago. We had worked with MIT engineers, the Clayton Sleep Studies folks, the Muse folks that created the Muse headset and app to create test products that ended up going on the market. So the Muse, which is testing out, monitoring things like circadian rhythms, heart rate, stress levels, et cetera, is now a multi-million-dollar, I think it's 30 some odd million dollar product. The Edgertronic camera from the MIT engineers is now commercially available in a $10,000 package that's able to shoot over 10,000 to 20,000 frames a second. That's a camera that used to be $200,000-$300,000. The Clayton Sleep Studies, they were creating a band that for people who have sleep apnea and things like that are able to use without all the headgear and everything that a lot of people who have sleeping issues have to use. So the list goes on and on in terms of commercialization, and that's just on the technological side, on the engineer, on the hardware. Lisa, do you have any other comments?
So hi, Jeannie Stein, ocean lover. I was expecting to hear something about like solving with this project, climate change, or solving coral situations where we can have more fish, more ocean species growing and assure the healthcare and pharmaceutical area how to give medication to human being. I am sure you have those solutions, but just you didn't mention it at the with the
Yeah,
question.
of course. My apologies. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously so much we can do in 20 minutes, but one of the big focuses and one of the big assets is being able to constantly go out into the water column the way we did with Mission 31. And instead of going down, and that's the coefficient of time I was mentioning earlier, instead of going down from a ship to monitor corals, to look at coral resilience, et cetera, for 2 or 3 hours a day on good weather days. Here, we were going out and diving, each of the 6 of us, going down and diving 8 to 12 hours a day because we had that unlimited or that unprecedented access to the bottom. And because we were saturated, or aquanauts specifically, yes, that's a real term, aquanauts. As a matter of fact, there are fewer aquanauts in history than ever been astronauts. We're able to go out in the water column consistently to do those experimentations, to look at climate change related issues. And I did mention dissolved hydrocarbons. That's certainly one of the aspects of climate change, but also O2 levels, acidification levels, the temperature variances. All those things are part of Proteus in the 7 senses array, which I neglected to mention. The 7 senses array, if you think about it in an organic fashion, it is the central nervous system that will be collecting data 24/7 on all the issues and all the related data points that you're mentioning. In terms of having more fish, I'm very recognizant of the fact not everyone could be a vegan or a vegetarian. And who doesn't like a nice piece of sushi once in a while? The problem is that we've been hunter-gatherers for far too long. And since the late 1950s, we've been way too good at leveraging technology to hunter-gather rather than farming. And by farming, I mean doing it in a way that's respectful to the environment, which in some cases these farming practices are. In other cases, they could stand to use a lot more improvement. But we need to leave the wild fish stocks to replenish themselves. There's no better platform than nature to replicate itself and to heal itself. So with regard to the wild fish stocks, that's one issue. With regard to feeding the world and food systems, we need to be able to look at the undersea world as an opportunity, especially on the continental shelves, as an opportunity to do better multi-trophic farming systems. I'd rather, honestly, that this be done in a closed system polyculture on land that's much better controlled than in an open ecosystem. But there are desires and market pushes to be able to have some of the more open ocean type of systems as well. So we need to be able to do that in a fashion that's respectful to the environment, that's respectful to our future and the viability of our future. As a matter of fact, I see Dr. Brian Helmuth online here, and he's one of our esteemed scientists from Northeastern University who are looking at systems that will give us the opportunity to do so. And I see he raised his hand, so I'm glad he saw the shout out. And if he wants to fill in the blanks on that particular question, I'm happy to cede the platform. Go ahead, Brian.
Sure, Fabien, thanks. I mean, it's great to see everybody. I mean, as a scientist, I can tell you this is a truly innovative approach that has no equal. And I think the way we view it is the ocean is the world's largest innovation engine. And right now, we don't know how to live as part of it sustainably. And so this really is the first venture into how do we live as part of a natural ecosystem that benefits all humanity, but only if we figure out how to do it with humans as part of it. And so there's nothing about this project that I'm not excited about from the science viewpoint, from the education viewpoint. And I'm feel so grateful to be part of this team.
Well, Brian, I also want to, give you kudos because you and Mark and your team at Northeastern were one of the instrumental universities that made Mission 31 such a scientific and educational success. The surface support and the personnel that were supporting the things that we were doing down below. I mean, it wasn't an effort for 6 people to do 3 years of science. I mean, there was an entire surface crew coming down and helping us out between Northeastern, FIU, and MIT that were really helping us do all the science that we were doing down below. And that was a huge blessing in Aquarius, because Aquarius's platform is so limited at 400 square feet. Proteus being 4 times, 5 times, or even 6 times, depending on the modularity of it, will give us the opportunity to not rely so much on surface support and really have the majority of the systems needed, the labs needed, the teams needed on site, all saturated and all able to help with all the science necessary on all these topics.
Very much involved with deep technical stuff.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much, guys.
That was not planned, by the way, guys. That Brian was just there, and I kind of put him on the spot by accident.
Wait.
So thank you, Brian.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me now? When a much younger age, I was in the Navy, and I worked with NOAA. So first of all, thank you very much for what you're doing. Last 25 years, I'm a patent attorney and engineer to start. What we've done, I work with the government, with DARPA, on just assessing innovations and trying to find what we can commercialize. What we did with the NASA and the space, all the space programs, is we identified to the public the innovations coming out of all the amazing research and development that they did in space. I think from a standpoint of what you guys are doing, it's amazing, and I'm totally excited with my background, but we need to almost make this into a Netflix special and realize not just how cool what you guys are doing, but the benefits to society, almost in a list of the innovations of just a few of what you mentioned. And somehow we need to get this into the ability excitement. When Elon Musk can return his rockets to Earth, his kids, my kids, are just absolutely amazed by it. We need to build that excitement somehow with what you guys are doing, because I go back to what William Shatner said when he recently went up to space. He said people are so interested in exploring space, but when he got up there, he looked back at Earth and said, that's the real treasure that we need to research more. So I'll give my contact information to Lisa, and I'm happy to help in any way I can, but thank you again.
Thank you. That's actually
pickleball with Lisa.
that is yeah, please do. She loves to exercise, and I'm sorry I didn't get down there to be able to play with you guys, but pretty exciting stuff. But you're absolutely right. You hit the nail right on the head. So yes, there's a commercial aspect. There's the big data aspect, which hopefully benefits a lot better decision making. But there's also the education aspect, which by and large, NASA and other space agencies have done a phenomenal job of in space. And the opportunities in the ocean have, despite the efforts of Nat Geo and BBC and my family and all that, have been paltry compared to that. And I will tell you, it's at least as exciting as space. There are so many wonders of the sea that are not necessarily just megafauna, meaning sharks and whales and all that, but which are wonderful. But also some of the most fascinating discoveries left for us to highlight and really excite young people to say, hey, maybe I want to become an aquanaut. Maybe I want to become a marine engineer or work at NOAA. NASA does a lot underwater as well. It's and the Navy as well. We went to the Naval Academy, what was it, Lisa, last week or the week before, and their midshipmen and as well as their admirals were thrilled at the prospect of Proteus, not just for training purposes, but for all of the science and engineering research that they would like to do in such an underwater platform. And I'm not just talking about military. As a matter of fact, this is a civilian vessel technically. So we're doing non-military type of research, but they do a whole bunch of research on acoustic anomalies, how noise pollution affects migratory patterns, how climate change related issues affect migratory patterns. And to the previous person's question earlier, those are really important for ecosystems and food systems, as well as coral reef ecosystems. If you look just as a general rule in a local ecosystem, a coral reef ecosystem collapses when, like a four-legged stool, you knock off one more leg than can make the stool stand. So if you have climate change related issues, but the coral ecosystem is healthy, the coral ecosystem, including corals, have more of a tendency to be resilient. But as soon as you start attacking it with pollution related issues or overfishing related practices, that's when things start having very real consequences. And we've seen this all over the coral reefs of Florida, for example. I've been diving the coral reefs of the Florida Keys since I was 13 years old. And so to be able to bring back that resilience, we need to be able to address those issues in those regions. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm really excited that you asked about that. So that's why there's a media center that is integrated in Proteus.
He's clearly excited. Fabien, I just want to answer one question. Do you want to turn yourself? On the global engagement piece. Hold on one second. Close to my mouth. Okay, hold on. Let me turn this off here for a second. One question that we didn't talk about too much, Off the Fence. I don't know if any of you saw My Octopus Teacher. So the media production company that's working on that. So exactly to the point, that gentleman, the question, we're working with them for about 1.5 to 2 years. They were down in Curacao filming, and they're working on Proteus, the documentary. We also had 60 Minutes down there filming. They're going to cover the launch. So to that point, exactly like the stories that are told in space, we need those ocean stories to be told, and we are working on that. So that is an important part of the mission and the vision.
As part of the,
okay, I think
as part of the media center. Yeah, as part of the media center, yes, absolutely. As part of the media center and media outreach opportunities, we certainly will have 24/7, live streaming from below. We'll be able to leverage the opportunities of podcast or video casts and so on and so forth. And of course, on the larger format documentaries, we've partnered with folks such as Off the Fence, which we're really excited about. So yeah, no, hugely important. Sending out that message is at least as important as leveraging the opportunities that aren't necessarily always seen. Telling the story of scientists, telling the story of nature, telling them in a way that is the story of adventure, the story of engagement, of fun, of information that connects people with what's below the blue veneer, so that we can all appreciate it in a way that very few get a chance to.
Yep,
So thank
great.
you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us at your conference, and I wish you all a fantastic Sunday and rest of your conference. Thank you.
Impact Summit on March 22nd, 23rd in New York, where we'd love to have you maybe in person, and there will be pickleball.
I would be honored.
Great.
Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.